Hey, welcome back to Secure Correspondence. I'm Janelle. I lead enablement and sales for security here at Trace3, and I'm super excited to launch season 2. We have so much in store for you in the next several episodes. We're going to be talking about zero trust, executive privacy and protection, asset management, and more. And we're kicking off this season with Trace3's Senior Vice President of Security Solutions and CISO, Bryan, and we're going to be talking about security strategies for mergers and acquisitions. Bryan, welcome back to Secure Correspondence.
Thanks, Janelle. It's my pleasure to be here with you. I'm very excited to share some insights on cybersecurity strategy related to merger and acquisitions efforts. You know, often security can get overlooked during the process, or they're not brought in early enough to have an impact on the deal. And an organization can often overpay for a deal or not factor in the security remediation funds as part of the deal to cover costs to bring the acquiree organization's security program up to your own standards. On top of those challenges, exploited vulnerabilities during the deal can totally derail the negotiation, and we're here to help make sure that doesn't happen. And actually, Janelle, there's so much to cover here, so how about we make a deal before we dive in? I'll come back for episode 2 as well. Is that cool?
I think that sounds fantastic. So let's not waste any more time and we'll dive into mergers and acquisitions. So during the M&A process, we've got two organizations. They're looking to enter into negotiations, and there's so many different factors to consider. There's we want to analyze what's happening. We want to know what's in their environment. How does that compare to our environment, and so on. And I've heard you present about how over half of organizations going through an M&A process report that they've encountered critical cybersecurity issues during that process, which, while isn't super surprising, I think, to us, it is somewhat scary. Can you tell us why cybersecurity deserves its spot as a major consideration early in the M&A process?
Yeah, Janelle, you hit the nail on the head. The key word there is early. The security due diligence team should be engaged during the discovery and targeting stages of the M&A process, because a poor security infrastructure could be a deciding factor between acquiring one organization over another.
Absolutely. I know that, you're often going through so many different processes as part of just deciding what's the right acquisition for you. I mean, even Trace3's gone through merger and acquisition processes. So for the typical M&A process, can you touch on the roles that IT and security leadership play throughout the transaction?
Sure. Asking a number of key questions and gathering data is the most critical function of the IT and security teams. IT and security need to understand the target company's IT and security environment. You have to ask yourself, do we have strong synergies in existing technologies and tooling? Are there conflicts or competing technologies that need to be resolved? Are there compliance or regulatory matters to understand? Are there remediations or integrations that could disrupt ongoing operations during the transaction? Questions like these are important to get answered early in the M&A effort.
So I love how you're thinking about the synergies between existing technologies and toolings, and that immediately I was thinking about like a tools rationalization process where we're understanding what are the existing technology investments on both sides. Like, where are there duplicates? Where are there overlaps? Where are there gaps? Are there integration possibilities between those different tools and all of that? So I could not agree with you more. And I think it's so critical to do that technology analysis and really understand what that future state is going to look like. And then from there, you can figure out the roadmap on how to do it right. But taking that critical step of rationalizing what those existing investments are is so important. So a minute ago, you mentioned due diligence teams. What should executives be looking for in a due diligence teams, and what should that team then be focused on?
Yeah, great question, Janelle. We recently worked with one of our customers who actually has a dedicated security due diligence team, which I was, very impressed with. We recommend that a due diligence team be focused on the transaction 100% and not be doing it as a collateral duty to their day-to-day security operations jobs. The worst thing that can happen during a transaction is that your security operations are neglected because those team members are busy evaluating the target company's posture. You should also have a diverse set of IT and security professionals on this team. Someone who understands IT and security controls, someone who has experience with compliance and regulatory matters, a technical expert or two who really understand the target's IT infrastructure and how it will integrate with your own.
I think many of our listeners out there are going to say, there's no way that we can have a dedicated due diligence team. Do you have some thoughts on how organizations that maybe are smaller or maybe don't have that capacity to take off all of these different people from their day-to-days? Do you have ideas on how those organizations might help support that?
I mean, even if you can dedicate one person to run that due diligence effort for you and then pull in other subject matter experts along the way, that's better than not having anyone focused on it. And of course, I have to maybe put in a shameless plug for Trace3. We'd be happy to help organizations get through these transactions. Our team has a lot of experience working through the M&A process, not only as practitioners in corporations where we've worked, but working with our many customers that are doing these sorts of transactions every week.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Bryan. And I definitely agree. All the different teams that are involved. I'd like to add on just how critical it is that, IT and security teams and the compliance and the regulatory folks and all the other technical SMEs, how they all work together and share that information, have like unified planning discussions, and really making sure that those critical concerns are shared in an open environment rather than making decisions and analysis in a silo. We do see silos a lot of times crop up, and people may be feeling not a little concerned maybe about what changes are going to come from a merger acquisition. But really to underline it, the critical importance of communication, I think, to go along with what you were saying. So I think, I know we're not going to have the time to talk about all of the different merger and acquisition stuff on this episode. What points are we going to cover on our next episode, Bryan? Can you give us a preview of what's to come?
Yeah, that's right, Janelle. We've got a lot more we can talk about. We'll dig deeper into the major considerations for IT and security teams during the transaction, and then we'll discuss the specific threats you should be looking out for and recommendations an organization should be thinking about while engaging in M&A activity.
I love it. I'm super excited for our next chat, Bryan. Thank you so much for joining me on today's Secure Correspondence episode. A big thank you also to our listeners. And remember to tune back into Trace3 TV's Season 2, Episode 2 for more information on the cybersecurity aspects of mergers and acquisitions. So for now, I'm Janel Schalk, wishing you well and letting you know that Trace3 Security has you covered.